Hello and welcome to our program. Will it happen within the year or next year around the second Kim-Trump summit? Recent weeks have seen a rise in speculation about the timing of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's visit to Seoul, but Kim has yet to give any reply to South Korea's invitation. What is causing the delay and how will it affect inter-Korean projects? Before we get to it, here is what we have for you today.
On this week's Road to Peace, we discuss how Kim Jong-un's possible visit to Seoul could affect the progress of inter-Korean projects. We also take a look at North Korean TV coverage on Pyeongyang's changing fashion trends. Lastly, we visit a photography exhibition that reveals a previously unseen side of North Korea.
For today's discussion, we're joined by Dr. Bong Young-sik, Research Fellow at the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. Welcome back to the show.
Very pleased to be here.
So, Dr. Bong, it looks like at this rate, Kim Jong-un is going to visit Seoul next year instead of this year. Can you tell us more about what your thoughts on this is?
It must be a very serious and deep strategic calculation by Chairman Kim Jong-un to decide whether to accept the invitation by the Moon Jae-in government to make a return visit to Seoul before the end of the calendar year 2018, as agreed in the Pyeongyang declaration in September. But it is not a small strategic card for Chairman Kim Jong-un to use. Think about it. It will be the first time ever since the national liberation in 1945 from Japan's colonial occupation for the supreme leader of North Korea to take a step on the soil of the Republic of Korea for the first time in the entire history of national division of the two Koreas that lasted more than 70 years. So it's not a small strategic card that can be dispensed by North Korean leadership without concrete gains to be expected. But as you know very well, that in the 30-minute meeting between South Korean President Moon Jae-in and U.S. President Donald Trump in the sideline of the G20 summit meeting in Argentina only a couple of weeks ago, that both leaders agreed that until North Korea will have accomplished irreversible and complete denuclearization, strong economic sanctions on North Korea must remain in place. That message must be really disappointing to Chairman Kim Jong-un, because what's the point of using this, one of the biggest strategic card by North Korean leadership, if there won't be any compensation for this visit to Seoul? So, without clear prospect that his visit to Seoul within this year will help ease the economic sanctions on North Korea that have been strangling the very life of North Korean economy, then there's not much reason or incentives for Chairman Kim Jong-un to make a visit to Seoul before the end of this year. I think it is a rational decision for North Korean leadership to keep this card.
Some people actually believe that North Korea has some kind of dissatisfaction toward the Moon Jae-in administration and that could be the cause of the delay. But can you tell us more about what could be the reason for its discomfort or complaints toward the South Korean government?
South Korea, as a member of the United Nations, has the obligation to carry out all the resolutions passed in the United Nations Security Council to urge North Korean leadership to abandon nuclear missile facilities and programs. But North Korean government says that, we treated your leader with all hearts at the Pyeongyang summit meeting on September 19th. We even took your leader and the delegates to the Mountain Baekdu. So what more can you ask for us to do? It is your turn to return the favor by easing economic sanctions on North Korea. Maybe not all the United Nations Security Council resolutions, but South Korea can make some independent steps to reverse the independent economic sanctions on North Korea, such as the resumption of the Kaesong Industrial Complex or actual beginning of the railroad reconnection projects or the resumption of the tour programs in mountain Kumgang area. But as I said, that despite the frustration by North Korean government officials, South Korean government's autonomy is quite limited in terms of taking actions that are different from the consensus of the international community.
And especially if in consideration of its relations with the U.S., the South Korean government can only do very limited things to satisfy North Korea on that front. But do you think Kim Jong-un's visit will take place before the second Kim-Trump summit slated for early next year or after?
The timing of these two summit meetings, the one between Kim and Moon, the other one between Trump and Kim, are not really tied to a sequence. Because now having summit meeting is not so important in terms of keeping the time or timeline, but it is important in terms of actually, keeping the ball moving in the right direction for denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula and the improvement of the inter-Korean relations and eventual normalization of relations between the United States and North Korea as adversaries. It is a quite different setting. Before the end of this year, it is important for both Koreas to have the summit meeting for the sake of creating momentum for the United States and North Korea to agree on having summit meeting between top leaders. It's kind of facilitating platform for the US and DPRK summit meeting, which actually took place in June in Singapore. But now, inter-Korean summit meeting is not that useful or necessary to persuade both leaderships of North Korea and the United States to have another summit meeting. Because now the dynamics of the communication and negotiations between Washington and Pyongyang is not really dependent upon the initiatives taken by Moon Jae-in government of South Korea. It has now its own dynamics. Unfortunately, so far, the working level meetings between Washington and Pyongyang have not been moving as fast as they were supposed to be. The scheduled meeting between special representative for North Korea, Mr. Stephen Biegun, and his North Korean counterpart in Vienna did not take place. And the meeting between Vice Chairman Kim Yong-chol and the Secretary of State Mike Pompeo in New York City did not get materialized. What we need to see is a resumption of working level meetings between two governments as facilitating process in preparation for summit meeting once again between Chairman Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump. In the meantime, it might be helpful for the two leaders of North Korea and South Korea to have another summit meeting to keep two agendas in harmony. What are the two agendas? One is, of course, the denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. The other agenda is progress on inter-Korean cooperation and trust building. These two agendas must be in harmony. That is the basic position insisted by the Trump administration and of the United States, and Moon Jae-in government also, fully agrees with this, position taken by the United States as a security partner. So in that regard, it is not that important which summit meeting will take place first, but it is more important that the two summit meetings must be made in harmony so that these two agendas, progress on inter-Korean relations and progress on denuclearization on Korean Peninsula, must be moving in parallel.
So that's going to be a lot of burden for President Moon and President Trump for the successful two summits next year. But we also need to consider that the U.S. and South Korea have decided to scale down their joint military drills. And U.S. National Security Advisor recently said in December 6 that it will consider the lifting of sanctions when the concrete steps come from North Korea. So there are some promises made by the U.S. as well.
But the problem between the bilateral relations between Washington and Pyongyang is the distrust is so deep and long since the Korean War. So words are and promises are cheap to the ears of people in Washington and people in Pyongyang. They want action, verifiable and concrete actions first. So North Korean government officials are very skeptical to accept the promises made by the government officials of Trump administration at face value. And likewise, the people in Washington also do not really put sufficient trust in the words made by North Korean government. Both sides believe that time favors them, especially the United States, because for the first time, the economic sanctions are supported by China, which a country that accounts for more than 95% of all North Korea's trade. So Washington believes that time favors Washington because as long as North Korea refuses to take additional steps of denuclearization, then its economy will continuously suffer. And the big dreams of the North Korean leadership, making Wonsan or the Mountain Baekdu grand sites of the international tourism, will not move forward. So that explains the hardline stance taken by the Trump administration.
So at the core of the very problem is the distrust between the two countries.
Distrust, right.
So the U.S. Treasury recently actually sanctioned 3 North Korean officials for serious human rights abuses, and that included Choi Ryong-il, who is actually considered the #2 guy in North Korea. But this comes amid Washington trying to bring North Korea back to the dialogue and its denuclearization talks. What do you make of this recent announcement?
Well, I mean, it was expected that the U.S. government, especially the Congress, is going to make additional pressure on North Korea for its gross human rights violations. It is reflective of the American political system as a liberal democracy. As a liberal democracy, the United States cannot really turn blind eyes to the actual situation on the ground for human rights violations. Of course, denuclearization of North Korea is a greatly important issue in terms of national security of the United States. But at the same time, given the nature of domestic politics inside the United States, human rights violations inside North Korea are also a very important political issue for the politicians and their constituents, especially with the death of American college student Oro Wonbir. That gives more reason for North Korean leadership to move fast in order to make a deal with the Trump administration. Otherwise, as long as North Korean leadership is taking more time without making a progress on bilateral negotiation with Washington, more issues will be added on the table, and North Korea will be additional pressure.
Factories at the Kaesong Industrial Complex that have reportedly resumed operations serve to make high-end garments for the country's elites. Although the reports are yet to be confirmed, there is a key element in fashion in North Korea. Let's watch some clips from North Korea's KCTV to find out what it is.
옷에 대한 시대적 요구가 어떤 것인가를 직관적으로 알아보기 위해서 우리는 새로운 것에 대한 감수에서 가장 민감한 청년들을 만나봤습니다. 이 옷차림이 이들의 본래의 옷차림입니다.
겨울에도 이렇게 달린 옷을 입을 수 있습니까?
기시 좀 물어봅시다.
예.
어떻습니까? 편안합니까?
예, 편안하고 아주 따스합니다.
알죠?
예, 밝은색이고 고상한 게 아주 마음에 듭니다.
옷이 마음에 듭니까?
예, 별로 이렇게 꿉꿉하지 않고 부드럽고 아주 유연하고 옷이 참 좋습니다.
고상하지 못하는 것은 생겼다가 없어지고 없어졌다가 또 생기고 하지만 고상한 것은 영원한 것이고 또 세계적으로도 여러 가지 유행들이 많지만 하나로 지향되는 게 무엇인가? 고상한 거다.
예.
예로부터 우리 인민의 마음속에 뿌리내린 민족 고유의 정서와 기호를 시대 발전의 요구에 맞게 끊임없이 계승 발전시킬 때 가장 아름다운 옷으로 된다는 것. 또 누구나 아름다움에 대해 느낄 줄 알고 그것을 향해 끊임없이 지향해 나갈 때 우리의 생활은 더욱 아름다워지고 우리의 미래는 더욱더 밝아지리라는 것을.
So the key factor in North Korea's fashion turned out to be elegance. And North Korea's First Lady Lee Sol-ju is very well known for her classiness and for her elegance in her fashion. And it was really brought a lot of attention in the recent Inter-Korean summits. So would you agree that she's kind of a fashion icon in the North?
Definitely, right. you remember that when the so-called royal couple of the North Korea emerged in the public's eyes in 2011, there's such a fanfare, not just among North Korean people, from outside observers, that North Korea was going to be a totally different country, more in line with the Western styles, because Kim Jong-un was educated in Switzerland, so he was very familiar with the Western civilization and advanced and affluent lifestyle outside North Korea. And Lee Seol-ju is an artist, so she must have a very keen sense of fashion and art. So in combination of those two people's backgrounds, then North Korea's society will be moving more in line with the outside world. But we have to wait and see. That it is true that Kim Jong-un leadership is trying to lead the country to be more like South Korea, Singapore, or China in old days in terms of modernization. But at the same time, Kim Jong-un leadership remained reluctant to release its control over weapons of mass destruction or improving the human rights conditions inside the country. So it's a decision time ticking closer and closer to Kim Jong-un to make this very difficult but necessary choice between economic prosperity and or the control of the population by violence and fear.
Well, apparently there's more change in North Korea's society than just fashion. Changes are also evident in the nation's capital and in everyday life of North Koreans. A special photography exhibition was held in Seoul to shed light on these changes. Here's more on the story.
From a bustling downtown dotted with skyscrapers and a relaxing family outing to a nightscape twinkling with lights. A series of photos depict present-day North Korea. We take a look at a special photography exhibition that offers a rare glimpse into the world's most secretive state. The exhibition is held in Jongno-gu, Seoul. Jointly organized by media outlets from both Korea's and the Joseon Shinbo, a Japan-based newspaper published by General Association of Korean Residents in Japan. Pyeongyang is Coming highlights changes and everyday life in North Korea.
북에서 기자들이 직접 찍은 사진이 이렇게 남쪽 시민들과 만난다는 것 자체가 아마 이 2018년도에 이루어진 그 역사적인 변화를 심각하게 하는 그러한 의미가 있다고 봅니다.
Most of the works are by Joseon Shinbo's Pyeongyang correspondent Ro Keum-sun.
평양 시민들의 순교를 전하고 싶어서 사진 기자 활동해봤고 오늘은 그런 사진을 서울에서 전시할 수 있다 하니까 정말 감개무량하고.
The photos are a journey into what life looks like in Kim Jong-un's North Korea. The high-rise buildings by Taedonggang Riverside and Pyeongyang citizens enjoying their leisure time well describe the changes happening in the country.
2012년 이후에 북쪽에서 찍은 사진들입니다. 꾸미지 않는 평양의 시민들의 모습이고 평소에 못 보는 사진들이 전시되어 있다고 생각합니다.
The isolated communist nation has been seeing a major change since Kim took power in 2012. The young leader has embarked on the path of reform and opening up under the banner of building a civilized socialist nation. As a result, skyscrapers and clusters of apartments are springing up across the country's capital. Pyeongyang's key landmarks include Ryeomyeong Street and Changjeon Street along the Taedonggang River and Mire Scientist Street near Pyeongyang Station. Ryeomyeong Street is where the leaders of the two Koreas rode in the car parade during the Pyeongyang Inter-Korean Summit in September.
사진을 보면 아시다시피 건물이 없었던데 건물이 웅장하게 일떠서고 옛날의 평양의 모습을 상상 못할 정도로 많이 발전하고 있었습니다.
Changes are also evident in everyday life of North Koreans.
누구나 한 번 보면 성차지 않아 또다시 찾게 되는 중앙동물원이어서 여기 새롭게 확장된 수족관에도 관람자들이 흥성이고 있습니다.
Attractions like zoos and amusement parks are packed with visitors on weekends, and new parks and inline skating rinks are coming to life across the city. Chicken and French fries are served at a fast food joint, and people play a claw machine and capture special moments with the smartphone camera.
이렇게 보시면 아다시피 아이들의 환한 웃음을 보면 아이들이 어떻게 생활하고 어떻게 그쪽에서 지내고 있는가를 알 수 있다고 생각합니다. 남쪽에서는 이러한 평범한 사람들의 모습이 아마 잘 전해지지 않고 있다고 생각합니다. 그래서 이렇게 평범한 시민들의 모습을 이렇게 담았습니다.
The exhibits reveal a previously unseen side of North Korea, inviting visitors to challenge the stereotypes associated with the country.
그 전에 봤던 그 사진들하고 많이 다르다는 느낌이 들고 되게 좀 활기차다 그럴까? 그런 느낌을 많이 받네요.
사진으로 간접 경험할 수 있어서 되게 좋았고 저희가 평소에 생각했던 평양의 모습과 많이 다른 모습이라서 그런 부분이 조금 인상 깊었던 것 같습니다.
이 전시를 보니까 저희하고 정말 똑같은 삶을 살고 대동강이 마치 한강처럼 보이는 그런 걸 느꼈거든요.
Pyongyang is coming. Will tour several cities in South Korea until March next year. With the talk of Kim Jong-un's possible Seoul's visit, now might be a good time to learn more about North Korea through the exhibition.
양 정상이 이제 만나서 김정은 위원장이 이제 서울에 이제 와서 같이 이제 4차 정상회담을 하기로, 그래서 역사적인 서울 방문이 이제 성사되는 것이 그때 발표가 되었습니다. 다행히 이 사진전이 그런 것과 이제 이렇게 우연히 이렇게 겹치면서 먼저 온 평양 그런 전령사의 역할을 할 수 있고, 그래서 정말 한반도의 평화와 번영이 오는 그런 거에 대한 그 견인차 역할을 할 수 있는데 좀 자부심도 있고 앞으로 그런 노력을 더 많이 하는 거로 성과를 남겼으면 좋겠습니다.
Hopefully, the exhibition will help bridge the gap between Seoul and Pyeongyang and bring their people together.
The Pyongyang depicted in the photos were somewhat new, but at the same time kind of familiar because we saw a lot of footages from the city in the Inter-Korean Summit in September. But do you think these exhibitions will have a positive impact on future inter-Korean exchanges?
Definitely. I mean, 1,000 miles begin with one step, right? The Korean proverb says. So with a growing concern that younger generation in South Korean society are not so much interested in, inter-Korean, cooperation or ultimate peaceful unification of the two Koreas, then it is very important to provide opportunities of education to members of the younger generations in South Korea to get to know the reality of North Korea. That North Koreans are not just monsters, but they are people with the same set of desires as South Korean counterparts. But at the same time, the exhibitions of the reality of North Korea must deliver the concrete reality on the ground to South Korean population. Otherwise, you'll be divided by unmatched and unfounded illusion about North Korea and unconditional hostility toward North Korea. So you have to be realistic in order to support the right kind of policy by the South Korean government to promote inter-Korean cooperation and the peaceful coexistence.
Well, speaking of these exchanges, the North Korean art trap was supposed to give a performance in Seoul in October, but what happened? It didn't happen.
North Korean government is trying to control the pace and scale of inter-Korean cultural exchange and cooperation in line with the overall very broad strategic decision with regard to the denuclearization negotiations with the United States. North Korea is an authoritarian regime, so the government is controlling everything, even cultural events. So no cultural events is free from political and strategic considerations. So it is good for both Koreas to promote cultural and human exchanges, but North Korean government wants to maximize the strategic utility of cultural exchange with South Korea.
Well, hopefully the regime will allow maybe a spring concert for next year.
Right.
Thank you, Dr. Bong, for sharing your insights with us today.
You're welcome.
Kim's reciprocal visit to Seoul is certainly a symbolic step towards peace on the Korean Peninsula, but so are consistent exchange efforts taking place at the government and civilian levels. Hopefully we'll continue to see more of them, and this is where we wrap things up. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.